Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Smite. I am Kagekaze, and we're taking a look at the update that was released for February 13th, which brings Smite to version 0.1.1349. Quite a few numbers, but what's important is that Neith, the Weaver, is now available, the latest god to enter the rotation. A few extra skins have been added as well. We have Neith, the Weaver of Fate, though, who is a support-type character, allowing her to put down wards. She has stuns, she has escapes, and she has an ability that even goes through any obstacle in her path to hit the enemy. While some of these might seem like they could be potentially overpowered, they seem to have done some decent balancing here, and I will be exploring her in depth should I get the chance, since a lot of people want to play her right now. Among the new skins that have been added, we have Cupid's Loverboy skin, which is apparently Valentine's Day specific, as we can see that he leaves candy hearts behind rather than his traditional red hearts. So if you are a fan of Valentine's Day and you want to have some funny attack animations, there you go. Loverboy, he may be the one for you. Ao Kuang has been given the sacred dragon to celebrate the Chinese New Year, looking pretty spiffy there, much bigger model than the standard Ao Kuang, and very colorful. The last skin added belongs to Neith, since she's just been added. You can see we have the standard, and then we have a mischievous, so it's just kind of a recoloring of the default skin, as most gods have. So aside from some gods and coloring, we have some new functionality happening here. You can see, we can see that we have Twitch TV integration into the game now, where you can actually check out some of the top streamers and even recordings of matches now. So this is fantastic that they are adding this. They have added a few new features to creating challenges. Here, if you create a match, you can see that not only can you pick your region, but you can pick a god drafting method, such as a draft or a blind pick. You can actually say that all party members must be on the same team or not. You can pick the party order rather than it relying on ranking. You can even increase the starting level of the game. So if you like the fact that certain matches start you at level 3, so you can have at least all your abilities level 1, you can do that. And you can even increase the starting gold. So you can create your own type of challenge here. Since these are not ranked, they're a good way to have some fun with it and create the type of match that you want. For those of us who are new, we have a new practice session here. The solo practice has been renamed to solo joust practice to reflect what it actually is, since that really is the joust mode, a one-on-one fight. But aside from that, they have actually added in the solo arena practice. So you can now fight a practice match against enemy AI, and you will of course have some AI teammates to help you along. Once you get into a match, you can actually see some of the most drastic changes that have occurred in this patch. First, they've added a popular tab. So for any god now, you can see what the most popular choices are for that god for some of the top players. And of course, when you go into the items, you can see that if I were to go, say, look at these, you can see what the popular ones are, no matter what category you're in, or you can just go to the popular tab, much like you can just go to the recommended tab to see what's there. As you can see, the recommended items are not necessarily the popular ones. Of course, since the god I'm on right now is new, a lot of them are. Another thing that's changed, as you'll notice in the other stat, focus is no longer here. It is because they have completely removed focus from the game. Now, focus is a stat that was added not too long ago into the game, according to the patch notes history. It was added before it hit open beta, but if we go in here into an overview for, say, Emir, focus was used to increase the strength of certain abilities like passives and snares and the like. So for example, like the Frost Breath here for Emir, the more focus you had, the longer it would stun. Same thing with Shards of Ice. The more focus you had, the more slowing it would do. As you can see now, a lot of the abilities that used to use focus have been baked back into the abilities. So for in the case of Emir, his slow will now always be 30%. Say for in the case of Kali, she now has Enrage, which will give her 20% life steal, regardless of, well, focus, which is not there anymore. So that will always happen when she's low on health. Siphon's Blood Healing used to use focus, and that now has a standard healing per hit and will not be increased anymore by focus. So removing focus is an interesting move. I kind of thought it was interesting to add in the first place. So it gave you a way of adding power to your characters that used a little bit more utility, so stun, snares, healing, and the like. But it seemed to added some unneeded complexity, to be honest. It was one of those things that, while it could help you, it was unbalanced in the way that it didn't help everybody. So, for example, Sun Wukong, I played him a lot. Focus helped him move faster out of combat and gave him a longer snare ability on his Year of the Monkey, which now has full snare capabilities at final level. This meant that Sun Wukong might really not care about focus right away, whereas a character like Ymir, who uses a lot of slows and freezing abilities, might have wanted focus more. But then you had characters that didn't use focus at all. We could look at Ra, for example. The only thing he really used focus for most of the time was for his speed of light, to give him more movement speed. Nothing else really helped him on that. Certain characters just really didn't use focus, and so it made it so that some characters could just focus on their attacks or their defenses, while others had to worry about this additional stat. Now, granted, they were usually really good about adding focus to items that were good for other things, such as defense or offense, but you could never quite hit the maximum amount of focus without buying all three of the focus items that were there. So it seems like what they want to do is they're either going to take it back and retool it so that they can make it more useful for all the gods, or they might just scrap it altogether. They haven't announced their plans that I've seen. I'll try and see if I can't find more information on that. I personally don't see the removal of focus as a bad thing. This basically will allow you to focus on the four primary aspects. Do you want magical offense, magical defense, physical offense, or physical defense? So you can build your character to be tanky, you can build your character to be a nuker, you can actually buy items to increase your speed, reduce your cooldowns. There's honestly a lot of customization you can do with the items already that I don't think focus really needed to quite be in there. Although I'm interested to hear thoughts of others, especially since that I am new to Smite. So those of you who have played it for a while without the focus and now had seen it with it, which method did you prefer? Did you prefer to have focus and to have that additional layer of depth, or did you think that it just seemed like something that was added in to add unneeded complexity? As a newer player, I can say that the complexity seemed like it was a bit much for what focus actually gave you. So that's my point of view on it, but I would definitely like to see what some of the experts think. Alright, lastly, I'll go over some of the very quick changes that were added to the game regarding some gods and gameplay. Hel has had some minor changes to her abilities. Hel is a god that would be able to switch stances between damage and support, and what they've done for this is they've made it so that if you use an ability in one stance, so for example here you have Decay, Hinder, and Repulse, which have an opposite side of Restoration, Cleanse, and Inspire. Using any one of these abilities will incur a cooldown of the same ability in the opposite stance, but it will be half as long as the primary cooldown. So you can still use stance swapping to use more abilities. It will just incur a slight cooldown compared to before. Switch Stances has also had its cooldown reduced from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. The magical contribution to Decay and Restoration has been increased from 40% to 60%, so you can now increase this ability with more magical power. The same has happened to Repulse. More magical contribution has occurred here from 60% up to 80%, while the flip side ability Inspire has been increased, but it is only from 50 to 60, not as dramatic of an increase. Hercules here getting a slight nerf to his Earthbreaker. Earthbreaker now will only go out 40 feet instead of 55. Looks like a little nerfing happening to Sobek here on his ability Sickening Strike. He will now only heal on up to 3 enemies hit, bringing that in line with abilities much like Kali and even the new Neith. And lastly, a slight change to Vulcan here. The Forge ability, his passive, was giving structures a 20% health and protection scaling. Apparently this was true as of last patch, but I don't believe they had updated the tooltip. So it doesn't sound like any functional changes have occurred. They are just updating it so that you know exactly what is happening. So that is it as far as god changes. So not too much changed here, aside from the new god and some skins, and of course lots of background stuff, lots of community stuff. So items, item changes, adding of Twitch TV. So there's some pretty good stuff in this patch from what I see, and I will be looking forward to giving it a go and trying out the new god. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Smite. Once again, if you haven't tried Smite, I recommend you do. It is free to play. I will be providing a link in the video description below that you can use to sign up that gives referral credit, so please do use that if you sign up, and I will see you next time.